I think they're an excellent pet if you can get yourself over the stigma. Like 10 out of 10. I love them so much.
Spend the next 20 minutes feeding your brain with Formosa Fauna so you can learn all about the animal kingdom and become smarter than all of your friends. What better way to spend your commute or downtime? Every Friday is Formosa Fauna Friday. I'm Tristan, the voice of Formosa Fauna. I love animals and I love talking about animals. Just a couple of months ago, in March this year, RTI reporter Amanda Stevens posted a story covering a change in pet ownership in Taiwan. In this article, it states that the total number of domestic cats in Taiwan increased by 50% compared to what it was in 2023, whereas the number of pet dogs increased by 19%. An internationally observed effect of urbanization and cats better suiting dense urban lifestyles could be part of the reasoning behind this increase. In 2023, pet dogs and cats outnumbered newborns by nearly 100,000 in Taiwan. While cats and dogs have traditionally topped the list for pets, other common pets include, in order, fish and other aquatic animals, birds, hamsters or guinea pigs, turtles, rabbits, and mice or rats. Mice or rats are 8th on the list, tied with insects for the most common pets in Taiwan. Some people would say, ew, I don't understand why anyone would keep that as a pet when it comes to rats and mice. New York City has deemed the rodents public enemy number 1, while others are perfectly content with them. In today's program segment, Formosa Fauna, friend or foe. We're going to talk about rats specifically so you can make up your mind on whether they'd be considered a friend or a foe. Yeah. Joining us today is animal lover, previous rat owner, and writer of the article we mentioned earlier, Amanda Stevens. You may also know her from her programs or news readings here on RTI English.
Hello, nice to finally be on your show. I'm excited for it. It's a fun one. When I was a kid, I always wanted pets. Like, I always wanted my own pet, and then my mom wisely was like, no, you're a child. You can't be responsible for your own pet. But so she would take us to the pet store, or we would beg to go like look at the pet store as children do when we were like downtown or bored. So one day we were just looking at the hamsters and we were thinking it's really cute. And like my siblings and I had been working on these arguments to like figure out how to get a hamster. Because like we took care of animals. Like my mom knew that I was really responsible for a child, but still like really responsible. We would always like host the school pet over breaks, right? Like someone has to take home the guinea pig or the hamster or whatever. So like she'd seen me take care of pets before. I knew this. I was like in 4th grade, I think. And so while we were looking at the hamsters, one of the workers for the store came out and we like got to talking, and she basically said like, oh, actually, like you probably don't want a hamster. They don't have a very good memory and they're not really friendly and they bite me all the time. The animals I would recommend are those rats over there. And we were like, what? I mean, my sibling and I were like, we love all small animals, like whatever. But while she was talking, she was like, they're actually really friendly. I almost never get bit, even by the feeder rats. So if you go to a pet store, there are fancy rats and there are feeder rats, because
what is
fancy rats are bred to be pets. Feeder rats are bred to feed to animals like snakes.
Oh my goodness.
Well, they need food. And it would not be fair. It's not right to feed a snake kibble or something like that, right? Like they have to have food. So the point she was making is like even the animals like the rats that are like not bred to be pets are very friendly. Like, and I never get bit by them. Like they're playful. And she basically gave us this like big like pitch for it that worked really well. My siblings and I were like, well, we want that for sure. And like my mom was sitting there like, ugh, like I don't know, how do I convince these children not to do it? So but like we'd been working on it for a long time. So she said if we could raise the money for it so that we would be able to buy everything up front that we would need for the rat, not counting like ongoing food and stuff like that, but she was like, we'd have to buy everything. She wouldn't help us out at all. And we would have to give her a presentation like detailing the exact care of the rat, how are we going to keep up for it, what we were going to do every week, what it needed, and to prove that we really understood what this animal was going to be. because she was trying to put up roadblocks that would be like, they'll lose interest. So we did it. And we did both of those things. I put together a little PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, that's
and I'd read, I like checked out books and I looked it up and I Googled stuff online, like way old Google. So like they're janky web pages. My grandmother betrayed her and gave us the last like $20 we needed to raise because we didn't have an allowance. So to raise money, at that time it was like $60 was the amount we needed to buy everything because we also had to calculate that by ourselves and show her what we were spending the money on. That was how we got started. And then my mom felt like she was a very good parent in terms of she was like, oh, like I said that I would do it if you like
she had to follow through.
Yeah, she's like,
her promise.
You know, like sitting there basically like massaging her temples like, oh God, like why did I agree to this? But yeah, so we got a rat. Her name was Puzzles. We actually went to a breeder.
I don't think I even really realized that there are different breeds of rats. I knew
know
that there are some different colors, but I thought maybe regionally there would be some larger, like different breeds, but I never thought.
It's kind of like fish, right? Where like if you think about a goldfish, like logically, I'm like, it's a goldfish. But if you talk to somebody who is like into aquariums, they start like listing off different types of goldfish. And you're like, I didn't know there was a difference. And it's actually really big. She can teach them a lot of stuff. Like they're really smart. We potty trained our rats. All of our rats are potty trained.
What do they go in? Is it a litter box like a cat?
Just in their little cage. But they like when you take them out, then they don't pee on you. Because in the first one we had Puzzles. So I had 3 rats. Technically in our house, I think we had, did I say 4 or 6 total? Because the downside about rats is they don't have a very long lifespan. You can really easily like teach them all kinds of tricks. So ours were potty trained. So like, because we would take them out to play, they ride on our shoulders like little parrots.
That's what I want. That's
they're
the
really
dream.
fun. They're very like cozy little pets, and it's very easy. Like they do need stimulation because they're so smart. So if you don't give them something to do, they will find something to do, and a lot of times it's not exactly what you would want. When we would know that we hadn't really played with them enough, because like they would just start pulling things into their cage, and they have really good little hands, and they'll just like work on it. So like we have like a 5-inch like margin around the cage where you're like, don't put it there if you don't want them to grab it. But also they'll work on breaking out. Our rats learned how to break out of their cage.
Very smart.
Several times. But like they also had recall, so like we could call to them and they would come to us.
Could they understand their own name?
Yeah.
So did you ever have multiple rats at once?
Yeah. They're social. So they're very, very social. So you should have more than one at one time or they'll get depressed. So, and that kind of becomes a problem if you just have like 2. So that was our problem, was we had 2 rats. And then my old lady matron, her name was Squeaky. She was the second rat I had. You can tell I had her as a child because I named her Squeaky. She outlived all of her litter mates, I think. So she outlived like 3 of them.
Well, obviously rats made good pets for you. Otherwise you wouldn't keep getting more of them, right?
Yeah. I loved them. Actually, like, and having rats turned my mom into like a big advocate of them.
Oh, good.
Because when she first got them, like like I said, she was an honest person, but she wasn't really excited about it. But like, you know, after experiencing living with them and, you know, like seeing how clever they were and like how social and just kind of like what friendly, smart little guys and like easy to keep, generally speaking, easy to keep. I think she really came around on them. I was like, those are actually really good pets.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think of rats as being gross.
Yeah.
But when you keep them inside, they're not all that gross. I mean, not much grosser than any other pet you'd keep inside a dog or cat.
They're actually very fastidious for animals. And so like compared to hamsters that I have kept as well, I prefacing this with I think that all these small creatures are cute.
Yeah.
But my rats cared a lot more about keeping themselves and like their bed spaces and other places like that clean.
That's so cute.
They really cared. Cute. Yeah. So like they would like make a little nest, but they would only bring things like bedding. They didn't hide their food unless they were going to like eat it. Like that was their special treat. I've had like family dogs. So we've had 3 dogs. I have 2 cats right now. And then, like I said, 5 rats total.
I'm curious how your rats compared to some of your other pets. Any huge differences?
I mean, besides what we were just talking about with like lifespan, I think when it came to our rats, like it felt like there wasn't a lot we could do if they did have a health problem, or rather like there's not a lot you can do that is like worth it because rats. So one of the biggest differences between fancy rats and like feeder rats is kind of the care that's taken for their health. All rats that live in domesticity, and I think just rats in general, are like predisposed to cancer. They get it very, very easily. They get tumors very, very easily. And like Squeaky, that matron I talked about, actually also did get a tumor in her ear. But it was benign, and it wasn't causing her any pain. It was just kind of like there. But for like a lot of people, a huge amount of people get tumors and stuff. Their rats get tumors. And it's a real kind of toss-up because they're so small, and a surgery to remove it or take care of it is so invasive. A lot of vets, at least at the time, but I think still today, a lot of vets would talk about like, you really have to balance if it's actually worth it for their quality of life, for their span of life.
Right.
And
because of the risk, because it's not always going to be
Well, and the risk is
successful.
huge for especially small animals, like things like a cat. My cat, one of the two, has had like very serious health issues, but addressing them, even though we have like needed to take like drastic steps, has always felt safer than it ever really felt with those little rats. Because anything that you do, like, and especially when it, like, if we were talking about anesthesia or something, is like way harder with a teeny tiny little guy that like he's just got small little brains and a lung, and like even if you're not taking drugs into account, like just the amount of delicacy you have to have, that was like the biggest difference. But on the flip side, I think I started to say this, I got distracted earlier, they were a lot easier to keep entertained. If that makes sense. So especially if we had two, but like they're so social, so they always need to be doing something or have puzzles to be solving. But like unlike my cats, where it's like we need to go like take an hour, or I need to go take them for a walk if it's my dog or something like that. Like I could walk my rats in the house. They're entertained by like cute little puzzles. You can do obstacle courses with them. You can teach them tricks. So people teach them to like, quote, like steal things or whatever, like for fun, right? Like on command, or like, oh, whenever you see this, come and bring it to me. And so we would do things like that. And then it's like a fun thing to do that like they're really into. And they also were like really good little cuddle bugs.
Yeah, they sound more interactive than I would have thought.
Yeah. My one rat, Squeaky, became infamous because her sister, her cage mate, was the one who learned how to break out of the cage. Squeaky actually wasn't the smartest rat. The door would be open and she just like wouldn't notice. But she became infamous because whenever she did escape, the number one thing she would do is just go look for a person. She just like was seeking out company immediately. And she would always find you and start like fireman climbing your leg or something like that. Or like occasionally you just see her like over there like, oh God, why are you here? Like someone opened the door.
That reminds me of my dogs back in the US. They would, I don't know why they would try to escape from the yard.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they would get out, they'd just go around to the front door and start barking.
Like I
to get in. Like, let me in.
That's so cute. You know,
like, why would you break out then?
Yeah. Also, they can eat anything. So you should still try to feed them a very balanced diet. And so we did. But it made giving them, I mean, not anything, but they can eat a lot of things. Yeah. So it made it a lot easier to give them things like treats. Because like if we just had like produce, we'd be like, oh, you know what? I wonder if they would like a little piece of grape. Unlike like our cats right now, where we're like they cannot have so many things. So many things.
How do you feel if you see rats out on the streets in Taiwan?
Torn. I really like them in terms of like I still think they're cute critters. And so I love to see them from far away. And I'm not really scared of them if they get close, but I do not want to touch them. Because while I love my pet rats, like unfortunately wild rats like just live in places that are really dirty, and that gives them mites, and those mites give you really bad diseases like mites or ticks or fleas. And where I was living in Seattle, we had they're called pier rats, but basically imagine like a giant rat that would live on a boat. We had those, and they're a Norwegian rat, I think. They're like, this is not helpful, but they're kind of like the size of a papaya. Is that a papaya, right? Like has the black seeds inside.
Yeah, that's a papaya.
Yeah, they're kind of like the size of a papaya. And so like, obviously, like many other small creatures, they don't really go out to fight, but like you wouldn't want to corner one because they're big enough. And then also like through no fault of their own, they probably will give you a disease.
Have you had any encounters like out on the streets in Taiwan with rats?
Like, have I seen them?
Yeah. Have they popped up? Any memorable stories?
My friend and I kind of followed a rat around a little bit one time because she was like transporting her children from one burrow to another in a park. It didn't feel as gross because she was just kind of like living in the dirt, like in her natural habitat, but we were just kind of like watching her.
Okay. You brought up a friend, and then I wasn't sure if you were talking about your friend was moving their children. What?
No. The rat. My friend and I saw a rat who was moving her children from one burrow to another.
That's very cute. It makes more sense.
Sorry.
Now that they were living in the dirt.
Yes. No, my friend was not living in the dirt. My friend, he had an apartment. He was like vibing. He was in his best life. And then other times, they just kind of pop out everywhere. And usually I react the same way in terms of like, oh, well, hello there. Like, what are you doing? Please, no, over there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Or, like, get out of the road, please. Please stay out of the road. I'm so upset if something will happen to you.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not grossed out by street rats, wild rats when I see them. My first thought is, oh, how cute.
Yeah.
Even if I have seen one in a restaurant once.
Yeah.
Because you know how they have those exposed like pipings, I don't know what it is. If it's a water line, I don't know. But and it sort of like scuttled across while we were eating. And it did kind of make me second guess our choice of restaurant.
It would. I mean, it would make me second guess. Like, because I do think they're cute. Like, I think they're just objectively cute. So I'm happy to see them like out in the world. If they're like in an establishment I'm in, mostly I'm like, that's probably not a good sign.
It kind of grosses me out, not because of the rat, but I think because the rat's presence indicates that they're probably not keeping things up to code.
Like, it's not in most of these cases. I feel like the rat is an indicator. It's not that this is an evil little guy doing nasty little things. It's that like, well, even if he's a nice guy, I don't want him rolling around in my shredded cheese. Yeah. Like, it's like, hey, this is no fault of your own. This is an indicator that there's a bigger problem. Like, exactly. And I don't want you and your little friends like living in my roof. Yeah. Just ratting it up.
Ratting it up. What a phrase. Do you think you'll ever want to have rats again?
I would. I would really enjoy them, but I would never own rats while I had cats because I don't think it's fair to either species. I know that some people do that. But I don't think it would be fair to punish my cats for their like hunting instincts that they would naturally have when seeing the rats. And one of my cats definitely would have that. He's like a rehabilitated street cat. So like I'm 100% sure he would go after like a rat. Yeah. And I don't think that would be fair. But if I had no pets and I weren't in Taiwan, I would have them again.
So overall, would you recommend rats as pets?
Yes. I hugely recommend them. I think if you would consider getting your child a rodent of any kind, I would definitely recommend rats because in general, I think they are a lot friendlier and like it's their intelligence and like their natural bonding animals, unlike a lot of other rodents that we keep, which have like learn to accept people in their lives. Rats are like naturally group animals. And so, and like I've had a lot of experiences since I first was introduced to them where we would just like meet even like tanks of rats like at different pet stores and stuff like that. And as long as like, they were being fed by people in some way, they were almost always, I don't actually think I've had a negative experience. Like they were always like really friendly. They were always like outgoing. They kind of want to hang out with you. They want to be with you. I've only ever been bitten by my rats or other rats in like cases of distress. Okay. Like they were confused or in pain. One time, one was like having a seizure. But basically like things that they can't control or like they don't understand what's going on. Yeah. I've never been like maliciously attacked or bitten, even in an irritated way.
Which is probably better than what you could say for cats.
My cat bites me all the time. My cat bites me all the time. My rats were like a lot gentler. But yeah, I would really recommend them. The only thing that I wouldn't recommend is that you should at least have two. Right. But like I think they're an excellent pet if you can get yourself over the stigma. Like 10 out of 10. I love them so much.
Have you ever had a memorable experience with an animal? Send me an email at tristan@rti.org.tw. That's tristan@rti.org.tw. See you next time for Formosa Fauna Fridays here on Radio Taiwan International.